Josh Frydenberg, thanks for your time. Who's done this modelling and what does it show?
The modelling's been commissioned by the Energy Security Board, and it's been done by Frontier Economics, an organisation that's been relied upon by the Labor Party for the modelling that was behind the emissions intensity scheme that they took to the last election. It's also been behind work that the South Australian Labor government has used, so it's a reputable organisation, David, and what the modelling has shown is that households will be better off by the tune of $400 in the period 2020 to 2030 on what their energy bill is today. Now that's made up of two components. About $280 is due to the extra investment we're seeing in the market right now, and $120 from the investment certainty that we will get from the National Energy Guarantee.
So about $120 thanks to your National Energy Guarantee.
Which is more than was originally estimated by
just a little more. I think it was 115, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 100 to 115 was the estimate. This has come in at 120, which compares also very favourably to the $90 saving you're going to get under the clean energy target.
That's $120 average saving a year, averaged over the decade, 2020 to 2030. So what do you get in the first year or two?
Look, it scales up over time.
So it's not much in the first year or two?
Well, it's not 100, but it scales up over
$10,
time.
$20?
It scales up over time.
You have those figures here.
Yeah, look, all will be understood when the states sit down with the Commonwealth on Friday. But the key point here, David, is that the wholesale electricity prices will be down by 23% over that period. Now, why is that important? Because if you're a big energy user...
How much do they save?
It depends on the size of their bill, but if you're a large supermarket, you could save more than $400,000 a year. If you are a chemical factory, you could save $1.4 million a year. And if you are a paper mill with a very large energy bill, you could save $10 million a year.
Now, in terms of how much renewable and how much dispatchable energy is coming into the system under this plan, what does the modelling show? Firstly, on renewables, what have you actually modelled here?
Well, what it shows is that within the range of 32 to 36% will be the amount of renewables that are in the system by 2030.
So we'll have up to 36% renewable energy by 2030.
But then you can break that down into renewables that are intermittent and renewables like hydro that have the baseload power characteristics. That's about 8% for hydro. But importantly, you've now got within these National Energy Guarantee a requirement that there is a certain amount of dispatchable power in the system. And as you know, this is what's been missing. We've had wind and solar come in without that level of reliability. So we'll see 3,600 megawatts of dispatchable power come into the system by 2030.
What's that the equivalent of?
2.5 Hazelwood. So it's a lot.
2.5 Hazelwoods of dispatchable power.
Of new dispatchable power will come into the system, and that's a good thing for consumers.
Will that be coal, or will that be some other sort of dispatchable power?
Look, it's going to be a combination of thermal and renewables with battery backup or pumped hydro. Obviously, there's a big amount of pumped hydro coming in with Snowy 2.0. But what we have through this National Energy Guarantee is an all-of-the-above approach. We want to reduce our emissions, and we could do that by upgrading existing coal, upgrading existing gas, bringing in new gas, or bringing in more batteries.
But here's the key.
Storage.
Does the Frontier modelling show that any new coal-fired power plants will be built?
Look, it hasn't focused on new coal-fired power plants, but what it's made clear is there is now the opportunity for upgrades. Now, we've heard AGL, for example, David, talk about, in the absence of Liddell continuing, if that is going to be the case, that Bayswater, their existing coal asset, will be upgraded. We know that Loy Yang in Victoria has seen an upgrade recently. So coal generators are absolutely critical to the energy mix.
So upgrading them is underpinning this modelling, but not building any new ones?
Well, we don't know what companies will decide to do.
The figures that have been produced here...
That 3,600 does not involve a new coal-fired power station.
Right.
It involves increasingly more dispatchable power coming from Snowy, coming from batteries on the back of wind and solar, and some more gas.
And how are you going to go trying to convince the states to support this? You're meeting them on Friday in Hobart.
Look, I think they hopefully we'll enter into a very constructive discussion with the Commonwealth, remembering this is the advice and the recommendation of the Independent Energy Security Board, made up of the foremost experts. And so Dr. Alan Finkel, the Chief Scientist, recommended that the ESB be created, and he's very pleased that the government sought advice from them. The key point here, David, is that this is the best way forward for Australia to break the impasse over climate and energy policy. It builds further stability into the system, it lowers power bills substantially, and it will also help us meet our international emissions targets. I was recently at the Climate Change Conference in Bonn, and before that in the United Kingdom. There was a great deal of interest in this recommendation, and as you know, groups like the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the BCA, the Australian Industry Group, the Irrigators Council, the big users like BlueScope and BHP, the energy companies themselves, the Grattan Institute, have all said that this has a lot of positive aspects to it, and we should enter into a constructive discussion with the states.
Josh Frydenberg, we have to leave it there, but thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.